They were committed to improving the lives of others. The tragedy is Saskia and Jack had theirs taken by Usman Khan's act of terror. But how did a man first convicted in 2012 and under active investigation manage to commit murder at an education conference at Fishmongers Hall? This question is now answered. After 6 weeks of evidence and no less than 84 witnesses, a jury was asked to settle 3 key questions. 1. Were there failings and omissions by those monitoring Khan? Were there failings and omissions by those managing Khan once released in 2018? And 3. Were there failings in security at Fishmongers Hall? Today, a jury said yes, and that all 3 contributed to the deaths of Saskia and Jack in a damning verdict. It has been a challenging 6 weeks for the families of the 2 young reformers.
Jack would have described himself proudly as woke, the opposite by definition being ignorant. Jack was a do-gooder in the very best sense of that term. It's clear to us that the arrangements put in place for managing Usman Khan after his release from prison in 2019 were not fit for purpose.
If the authorities failed, the inquest heard how former offenders like John Crilly succeeded in apprehending Khan. After the attacker left Fishmongers Hall, Mr. Crilly and Darren Frost bravely pursued with a decorative tusk and a fire extinguisher. This was the outcome on London Bridge, one that should have been avoided. Why was Khan allowed to travel to the conference unaccompanied from his home here in Stafford? Usman Khan was under heightened surveillance. MI5 had received uncorroborated intelligence that Khan intended to carry out an attack once released. But although this information was enough for them to upgrade their investigation, it was not formally shared with the multi-agency public protection arrangement and probation teams whose sole job was to manage Khan and keep the public safe. The inquest heard Khan may have groomed his probation officer. There was belief Khan had changed, but reports were mixed. Inside his flat, surveillance noted Khan played killer video games, but did not notice his plans. In this footage, Khan gets cash to pay for the 2 knives used. He bought the bag he hid them in from TK Maxx and his mask from Pound Stretchers. But along with the cocaine Khan took ahead of the attack, there were blind spots ahead of his fatal trip to London. This is Usman Khan en route from Stafford on the 29th of November 2019. His very ticket was found by the man he murdered, the man who we now know was let down. As Khan travelled along this very route, none of the agencies who were part of the joint operation on Khan intervened to enforce additional security measures on the convicted attacker. In fact, MI5 were considering closing their investigation into Khan.
Make sure you have all your luggage and belongings with you.
Khan arrived in London to meet familiar faces from Learning Together, who knew Khan since he was in prison. He pretended he had changed, with tragic consequences.
There was one in particular, he kept coming back. He was a Cambridge grad and his name was Jack. And Jack's eyes never saw white or black.
This tribute was from Roscoe, who Jack supported with Learning Together.
All the way to probation, kept me educated. Just an amazing, compassionate human being. Someone I wanted the best for everyone, not just himself. Do you know what I mean? He literally fought and wanted the best for everyone in the world, really. That's Jack in a nutshell. It was devastating because we had plans and we had goals. You know what I mean? I'm still continuing to do that for both of us. And it's sad, man, because that's quite a mad price to pay, innit? For doing what you love and doing good. Do you know what I mean?
Roscoe describes Jack as a brother and Learning Together as a family. But Saskia's own were critical of this programme's failure to keep her safe.
It could be said that their single-minded view of the rehabilitation of offenders, using Usman Khan, in our view, as a poster boy for their programme, significantly clouded their judgment. It seems there was no intent on their part to listen or take notice of what they were dealing with in working with such a high-risk individual.
This was Saskia sitting next to her killer at the conference. Usman Khan will never face the pain he's caused. He was shot dead by armed police. Amidst this damning verdict for the authorities, his inquest begins next week.